So I want to move us back into the context of the Holy Roman Empire and think about some of the developments that really solidify the differences between Catholicism and Protestant movements. So one is to think about the Augsburg Confession. In 1530, the Emperor Charles V of the Hapsburg Empire perceives that these divisions are not being healed despite the best efforts of his brother, the Archduke Ferdinand. And so another imperial diet is called this time in Augsburg. And so the leaders of the Protestant movement come to prepare statements that give the emperor insights into their beliefs. Philip Melanchthon represents a Lutheran movement here and writes the Augsburg Confession to show various points of confluence with Roman Catholics. Even though the confession is rejected by Charles V and the Catholic attendants as not being sufficiently in line with Catholic teaching, the Augsburg Confession itself becomes a definitive statement of Lutheran belief and becomes part of the 1580 Book of Concord, which is really a foundational document for Lutheranism. For Episcopalians and Anglicans, it's important to know about the Augsburg Confession because those of us who are in full communion with Lutheran churches, such as the Evangelical Lutheran Church of America, need to be aware that the Augsburg Confession is really a marker for these communities as well. What happens after this point in time in 1530 is a further consolidation of Lutheranism into a single church and movement. And we have the papacy, on the one hand, refusing to call a general council of the church to deal with these problems of conflict around religion in Germany. We have Charles V not granting a national council of churches under his authority in German areas, which would have helped to probably create a national German church distinct from Rome. That's avoided because that would undermine Hapsburg claims to his world empire that doesn't just constitute the Holy Roman Empire, but these other entities in Spain, Netherlands, and overseas. In 1548, the Diet of Augsburg is called, and this time a decree is offered that's known as the Augsburg Interim. This is an interim agreement that allows Protestants to continue with married clergy, for them to, in their territories, to distribute Eucharist in both kinds, to teach the doctrine of justification. But in all other ways, Roman Catholic elements are to be retained, so that you have all 7 sacraments, for instance. But this was not able to be implemented practically, and it really fails as a solution to a very difficult problem. So another diet is called in Augsburg in 1555. Here, Charles has fled Germany because of unrest, and he gives oversight to resolving religious issues back to his brother, the Archduke Ferdinand. And this results in something known as the Peace of Augsburg, which really is a division of the German territories of the Holy Roman Empire into various religious territories overseen by various dukes and princes. And really guarantees the personal and legal security of adherence to particular forms of Christianity in these different regions. So I have a map for you here which shows the division of the Holy Roman Empire into these Lutheran areas, these Catholic areas, and these Reformed areas. What this does is it guarantees a right of worship and church polity for the Lutheran princes. It gives them the rights of princes to oversee religion in their specific territory. So it gives rise to this phrase, Quis regio eos religio, that is, the one who reigns is his religion. So you're either Lutheran in a territory or you're Catholic in a territory. You can't be, can't have one or the other or both mixing in one specific place. Again, what you have is then a principle of ecclesiastical reservation, which is that what was happening was in certain territories, the bishop of a territory was converting to Lutheranism. And so people were beginning to argue, well, now this whole territory is Lutheran because the bishop has become Lutheran. This is not the case. If the bishop converts to Lutheranism, the bishop ceases to be a bishop. And if it's a Roman Catholic territory, you can still retain a Roman Catholic bishop. Now, it's important to note that in the context of the Holy Roman Empire, this only applies to Lutherans and Roman Catholics. So while these kind of Reformed Protestant territories begin to emerge, they are not given the same rights and legal abilities as we will have for these Lutheran and Catholic areas. So you see this on this map where certain territories are marked off as having these Reformed or Calvinist governments, even if they are in the territory of the Holy Roman Empire, they don't have the same privileges. And this is because of this disagreement over the nature of the Eucharist. So Lutherans kind of sideline the Reformed entities. But the Peace of Augsburg has some significant consequences. One is that it undermines three previously existing assumptions or positions. One, the assumption that there is a single religious truth that binds all people together. Once you have separate Lutheran and Catholic polities and entities, you're really saying there's two different versions of Christian truth. This is going to have enormous consequences as we move on. Second, it undermines Charles's desires for his dynastic Hapsburg domination of Europe. As Lutheranism emerges and splinters apart the German territories, he really can't hold that together in the same way. And finally, it undermines the assumption that the goal of the Protestant reformers was to reform the Church Universal, not to split it. The Peace of Augsburg of 1555 really shows a definitive splitting of Christendom, and that Protestantism is really an entirely different movement of churches. So we've gathered a long way. We've come to the end of the journey here. I hope this has been useful, and I look forward to our conversations.